Here are 3 chilling true horror stories where the desire for money or wealth led to terrifying or tragic consequences. These stories are not just scary, they're warnings about greed gone horrifyingly wrong. The price of blood. The whispering walls. The author Taimur Azam had always considered himself a practical man. Numbers made sense. Real estate made money. Emotions. Superstition. Rubbish. But after 3 failed projects, a mountain of debt, and whispers among his investors branding him a con artist, Taimur was desperate. That's when an old man named Baba Salim walked into his Lahore office one rainy afternoon and offered him something absurd. "There's an abandoned Haveli," Baba whispered. "In a village no one remembers. Beneath it lies a treasure, buried for over a century. Gold. Jewels. Enough to erase your debt and make you rich 10 times over." Taimur scoffed at first. But when Baba pulled out an ancient rusted coin, heavy, golden, and unlike anything he'd ever seen, Taimur's skepticism started to crack. "Why me?" he asked. "Because you have nothing left to lose," Baba said, smiling with half his teeth. And he was right. The road to Kila Rock. The village was called Kila Rock, a name that didn't appear on modern maps. Baba gave him handwritten directions and warned him not to arrive after sunset. "The Haveli sleeps by day," he said. "But at night, it breathes." Taimur dismissed it as senile nonsense. By the time he reached the village, the sun was setting behind blood-red clouds. The road had turned to mud, his phone had no signal, and not a single person had been visible for miles. He passed an old graveyard, its stones crooked, names faded. Then a giant banyan tree bent over the dirt path like a silent guardian. Under its shadow, the air turned cold. Eerily cold. As he entered Kila Rock, he noticed something strange. The few villagers who were out stopped moving entirely. They stared at him. Not with curiosity, but caution. Like he'd just walked into a room no one ever enters by choice. The Haveli was exactly where Baba said it would be, at the edge of the village, surrounded by dying trees, the gate rusted shut. Its walls were cracked, but tall and imposing. Its windows were shattered like jagged mouths frozen mid-scream. Taimur climbed over the gate and stepped onto the grounds. Every instinct in him screamed leave. He didn't. Inside, dust danced in shafts of dying light. The air smelled of decay and something else, metallic, thick, like old blood. The rooms were massive, empty, but filled with an invisible pressure, as if the walls themselves were watching. He explored the drawing room, where a chandelier still dangled by a chain, swaying slowly though there was no wind. A portrait of a man hung crookedly above the fireplace. The man had no eyes in the painting. Just 2 hollow, pitch-black sockets. Taimur's torch flickered. Something moved upstairs. The journal. He set up camp in what was once the master bedroom sleeping bag, a flashlight, and a bottle of whiskey. The room smelled stronger than the rest. A sickly sweet, rotten scent. Under the bed, he found a leather-bound journal, wrapped in red cloth. Most pages were smeared with ink, but some entries were readable. "I told them not to dig. The treasure was sealed with blood. But greed speaks louder than warning. First the birds left. Then the dogs howled. Then the walls began to bleed. He comes at night. The one with no face. He offers gold to the living and takes skin in return. Taimur laughed nervously and shut the book. "People will believe anything," he muttered. Then something knocked on the door. Once. Twice. Thrice. He turned the handle and opened it to silence and darkness. The eyes in the dark. That night, he dreamt of a man buried alive, scratching at the coffin walls, bleeding from his fingers, screaming without sound. Then he woke up gasping only to find long scratch marks on the floor, leading from the bed to the door. The next morning, he confronted an old woman at the village well. "What happened to this place?" he asked. "Why is everyone so afraid?" She looked around, lowered her voice. "That Havli took something from all of us," she said. "My brother, my son, they went looking for the gold too. And they found it. But they never came back whole. One returned with no tongue. The other, he returned only in dreams." Temur felt a chill crawl up his spine. "Are you trying to scare me?" "No," she said. "I'm trying to warn you." That night, the knocking returned. But this time, the door was already open. The blood in the walls. On the third day, Temur finally brought tools and started digging in the basement. The floor was uneven, and the center stone had an odd marking like an eye carved into it. As he chipped away at the stone, a low humming began. Faint at first, then louder. He paused, sweating. Suddenly, a voice whispered from behind him. "Not yours." He turned, swinging the flashlight wildly. No one there. But now, the journal had reappeared in the center of the room, open to a page he hadn't seen. Asterisk, once the stone is broken, the blood must be paid. Asterisk. He looked down at his hands. Blood was dripping from his fingertips, though he hadn't cut himself. To be continued. Temur doesn't believe in curses. He believes in gold. But the Havli doesn't care what he believes. It only asks one question. How much blood is beneath the stone? Breaking the seal. Temur stood above the marked stone, his breath fogging in the basement's sudden chill. The eye symbol carved into the floor felt alive. Its shape was primitive, but it gave the impression that it was staring up at him. He tightened his grip on the pickaxe. Gold doesn't just appear. It's buried. Hidden. Locked away. I'm just unlocking it, he muttered. He swung hard. The first crack echoed like thunder through the walls. The second blow made the floor tremble. On the third strike, the stone split open and a rush of hot air surged upward, thick and metallic, like a wound breathing out rot. Something gurgled beneath. And then, something far worse, a moan. Not mechanical. Not natural. Human, muffled. From under the floor. He stepped back. Then the basement light's bare bulbs connected to his generator flickered out. The red room. Torchlight trembling in his hand, Temur leaned over the opening. Below, a short spiral staircase led into a hidden chamber. Brick-lined walls. Carved symbols. Chains bolted into stone. It wasn't a treasure vault. It was a prison. In the center of the room sat a small chest. Old. Blackened with age. Dried blood smeared its edges. The lock was fused shut. But as he approached, something pulled his gaze to the walls. Handprints. Hundreds of them burned into the stone like shadows after a blast. And the words scratched in frantic, broken Urdu. I took the gold. I buried my family. I buried myself. It doesn't give. It takes. It watches when you sleep. It whispers in your skin. Temur shook his head. Stories. Just stories. He smashed the lock. The chest creaked open and inside, wrapped in blood-soaked silk, were gold coins, a ruby-encrusted dagger, and a small vial filled with a thick, black liquid. He laughed aloud. It's real. It's all real. Then the walls began to whisper. The watcher in the mirror. He took the chest upstairs, heart racing. Whatever legends the villagers had told, whatever superstitions Baba Salim believed, none of it mattered now. He had proof. Treasure. Wealth. But as night fell, the Havli changed. The rooms felt tighter. Shadows moved when he wasn't looking. His reflection in the cracked mirror of the hallway lingered just a bit too long. When he turned, he swore it smiled at him before fading. He stopped sleeping. Night after night, he locked himself in the master bedroom, the chest by his side, whispering plans about how to transport it, how to launder the treasure, how to hide the find from authorities. The journal began appearing in different rooms open to new pages. New warnings. Asterisk the gold is marked. The moment you touch it, you belong to him. Asterisk. Asterisk the dagger is the key. But it opens both ways. Asterisk. Dash possession. The ruby dagger began to call to him. One night, he awoke to find himself holding it, his palms bleeding, the blade slick with fresh blood. He'd carved symbols into the floor while he slept. He had no memory of doing it. The next morning, the same old woman from the well appeared outside the Havli gate. She didn't speak. She just stared. Then she held up her hand and her tongue was missing. A blood-stained letter was nailed to the gate. He comes with the blood moon. Give it back or lose your soul. Temur burned the note. No one's taking this from me. But he couldn't stop the bleeding. His hands. His nose. Even his eyes would water red. The Havli wanted payment. And it was collecting. Dash the first death. That night, his assistant Asim arrived. Temur had called him a week earlier, offering a cut if he helped retrieve the treasure. Asim laughed when he heard the stories. Bro, are you serious? You're getting spooked over some dusty house. By midnight, Asim was missing. Temur found him the next morning in the well, limbs bent backward, every bone shattered as if crushed from within. On the walls of the well, scratched in with broken nails, was a single word. Mine. Dash. The deal Temur was breaking. His sleep was haunted by a man without skin, tall and featureless, walking the Havli halls, dragging something heavy behind him like a body or a chain. One night, the man stood at the foot of his bed. You opened it, the figure said, voice like cracked wood. Now you must feed it? Temur, trembling, asked, feed what? The dead. The figure pointed at the treasure chest. Gold made from blood must be paid in blood. Then the figure vanished and the dagger was in Temur's hand again. Dash to be continued. Kila Rock has many graves. But only some of them are full. The rest? They're waiting. Temur thinks he can buy his way out. But in the Havli, blood is the third night. Temur had stopped sleeping entirely. The Havli no longer even pretended to be silent at night. Footsteps echoed across floors. Furniture scraped across rooms on its own. Sometimes, faint music played, an old gramophone tune that grew louder if you tried to ignore it. Every mirror in the Havli was now covered, but still, Temur saw faces watching him in the glass of windows, in the reflection of water, even in the black surface of the ruby on the dagger. Each night, the dreams were worse. One dream showed him digging up his own grave. Another showed him counting coins while his own body bled out beside him. And the worst of all, he saw himself, no skin, no eyes, standing in the mirror, smiling. Dash the return of Baba Salim. He returned. As suddenly as he had disappeared, Baba Salim arrived at the Havli gates, filthy, limping, and silent. Temur rushed to him, clutching him by the shoulders. You didn't tell me the truth. Baba Salim's eyes were dead. Would you have come if I had? He paused, then said something that made Temur freeze. I tried to take the gold once. 40 years ago. That's why my son was born without a face. He stepped into the Havli slowly. I came back to do what I should have done before. To end it. He walked to the chest, and when he saw it open, already disturbed, he fell to his knees. Too late, Dash. The tomb below. Baba revealed the truth. The Havli was built over the burial site of a forgotten cult, the Naksharilahu, Mark of Blood. They had worshipped a faceless being known only as Wojo Dektahai, he who watches. They believed in immortality through sacrifice, binding spirits to gold. Every coin in that chest, Baba whispered, has a soul in it. Screaming. Taimur wanted to throw it away, bury it, burn it. But every time he tried to destroy it, the chest returned to the same spot, untouched, as though it had never moved. The dagger was the only thing that never vanished. It wanted to be used. The ritual begins. That night, Baba Salim tried to perform an ancient cleansing rite. He drew chalk symbols, lit black candles, and placed the ruby dagger in the center. But as soon as the chant began, the Havli responded. Screaming every wall. Every corridor. Voices of children. Women. Old men. Crying. Laughing. Pleading. Baba's body seized. His mouth snapped shut unnaturally. His skin turned gray and smooth as if something inside was pressing against it. His last words, choked and rasping. It's not just the house, it's inside you now. Then he dropped, lifeless, the dagger plunging itself through his chest without anyone touching it. The final descent. Taimur was alone again. He tried to flee. Packed the gold in a duffel, started the car. But the road out of Kila Rock no longer existed. It simply turned into a circle, back to the banyan tree. He tried calling for help. The phone worked. Once. The screen showed his own face, only it was burned, eyeless, mouth sewn shut. Then the phone melted in his hands. He ran back into the Havli only to find that the entrance was gone. The house had sealed itself. The price. The dagger reappeared in his room. Next to it, a message carved in the wood. Pay or remain. The only way out was blood. Taimur dragged Baba's body down to the basement. He offered it. Burned it. Cut it. Begged. Nothing changed. Until he heard footsteps. Someone else was inside the Havli. A man. Curious. A traveler who had followed Taimur's social media posts about a hidden treasure. Hello, the man called. Is this the place? Taimur understood then. The Havli didn't just take. It needed to be fed. He watched from the shadows as the man stepped inside. And then. Taimur smiled. A new owner. 3 days later, the Havli gates opened. The village children swore they saw someone walk out, his clothes clean, his eyes calm. It was Taimur. But when an old man greeted him with, "You survived," Taimur looked at him, and smiled without blinking. "I didn't just survive," he said. "I own it now." Epilogue. Months later, a luxury real estate page on Instagram began promoting an undiscovered heritage mansion perfect for film shoots, weddings, and antique hunting. The location? Kila Rock. And the contact person? Mr. T. Azam. One visitor left a comment on the post. "We found a dagger in the basement. And something was scratching at the walls from the inside. We left. We never looked back. But not everyone leaves. Some go to own gold. Some go to seek ghosts. And some never leave at all. ### the end. Greed is a door. Blood is the key.